stubble burning.
Stubble burning. Punjab farm fires continue to rage.
While Delhi's air quality keeps worsening day by day, there is no end to stubble burning.
I'm actually not necessarily convinced that stubble burning causes a huge amount of the air pollution in Delhi. I think it causes an episodic spike for a few days. But other than maybe 7 to 8 days of extreme, over the edge, over 999 scale air pollution, I don't think the average farmer contributes that much. And I think as stubble burning hopefully dies out in a few years, which I hope will play a critical role in making happen, we'll see that still the air pollution problem hasn't gone away. It is socially a very contentious issue because in general, people fault the farmers the least. No one wants to show a fire on the map because at the end of the day, you are troubling a farmer. In their head,
No one wants to, matlab kya? How can they fudge the satellite?
Data, but you can always change the definition of a fire. What is a fire when it's scientifically written out as code is a very interesting line on where the line of a fire has been drawn, both by the government as well as NASA as well as ISRO. So in all those spaces, I think in general, it's safe to say that every person in this ecosystem who is associated with the state or academia very clearly doesn't think of the farmer as the main problem. So they will try to escape as many fire incidents as they can. But sort of moving back to the sort of point, we are trying to provide incentives.
Even if we forget Delhi's air pollution for a moment, stubble burning must stop because it actually harms the farmer's own land and health. While many countries face this problem, the reasons it started in India are very specific. It goes back to history. See, during the Green Revolution, new seed varieties were introduced along with machines and subsidies for electricity and crop prices. Eventually, the government set fixed dates for sowing and harvesting to save groundwater. This left farmers with a very tiny window or a gap of just a few days to clear their fields for the next crop. Now, because they're in such a hurry, burning the leftover stubble becomes the quickest, though the most harmful option. We sat down with Roshan Shankar, a son of the soil who went on to study at world-class universities like Stanford and Princeton. Like many NRIs, he came back to start Saroja Earth, a startup dedicated to fighting air pollution, starting with a massive challenge of stubble burning. We at RainMatter are learning about how climate change is affecting you and me. And more importantly, what we can do about it. Join us as we speak with the people who are working on solutions for India. Welcome to the Climate Conversations.
So I've researched at least 45 countries that do something with rice. The rice burning happens in about 30 of them. So it's not as if our farmers do doing something very different. But it's definitely the only country where farmers are told exactly when to sow and reap their crops. You find, for example, Dutch farmers or any Eastern European country, Ukraine, any of their farmers burning the stubble much faster than any Indian farmer has.
Are they trying to stop the stubble farming as well?
There's a few countries that are trying to do something of it. So Egypt, Vietnam, Thailand, some parts of Indonesia. So if I had to go to look where is the best research coming from, where are the best products coming from, I think in our space it will be in those countries.
Could you please maybe trace back the stubble burning and connect it to the Green Revolution, how it came about?
So we are growing rice in this region as part of an international experiment to boost agricultural productivity. And because India chose this region somewhat not so nicely without the consent of the state itself.
Really? There was nothing more to it? I mean, how?
It was chosen by the central government. MS Swaminathan, who's named as the popular figure behind the Green Revolution, was made agriculture secretary. And Mrs. Gandhi, who has had a love-hate relationship with the state, sort of views this place as an experiment pod.
As the love part or the hate part?
I'm not sure which anymore. But there are some things that must be read between the lines that I don't think even historians can anymore. So since the 1950s, as experiments were done, and in the 60s when rice and wheat became mainstream, the drawing of water from the water table became excessive. So at least across 21 out of the 23 districts, except for Hoshiarpur and parts of Ropar, which are still considered largely untouched by the Green Revolution, a host of different farmers got intensively into rice and wheat cultivation. The minimum support price helped them make it a guaranteed high price business. And finally, the farmers in this space over, let's say, about 3 decades had taken out enough water without replenishing the local talabs or the jords that the government had to bring in an act to mandatorily fix when they would sow and reap their crops. The idea is in Punjab and Haryana, the time window, which is only about 2 weeks to about 17, 18 days, in which they have to get to their next crop is very small. That is one of the exacerbating reasons. Otherwise, given enough time, anything decomposes, and anything that decomposes is a good decomposer to put back into the soil. But in the limited time frame or the window that we have, the material usually doesn't degrade fast enough for it to become compost. You can mulch it back, but mulching, again, just like going back to the cooking example that I took, subtle differences in the way you do things or at the temperature at which you do things or the moisture at which you do your thing can change the flavor of your food quite a bit. So very similarly with mulching, there's a right day to do mulching, and if you do, and if all farmers practice that, you can always get it back into the soil. But given some extra due, just like at a cricket pitch report, or given some extra variables in the morning, you may choose not to mulch it because it may end up negatively affecting the next crop's yield. If a practice exists, it means that there's a reason for it, and the reason usually is a good reason for it. The average farmer also burns the parali because, in their opinion, it also creates soil organic carbon, which to a certain extent is also true. Any of the people that you speak to who are making biochar are broadly doing the same thing. So a farmer is sort of doing a open, unengineered version of what people who are doing biochar are doing. It also takes away a lot of the rodents from the acreage of the farm, so they don't have to put pesticides onto it. It's also very easy. It's only a matchstick, so you need a matchstick and things will burn. So for all those reasons, it's very useful for a farmer to do it, and also because of the time window. So the fact that a practice exists means that the constraints and the choices clearly lead to that.
What is unique about rice?
So the nature of the crop itself becomes very hard, which makes shredding much harder. So on an average, an agricultural residue is very easy to sort of process. You can just take some out of the soil and you can just easily shred it. But your rice straw doesn't shred as easily. So any machine that works with rice straw has to have a lot more resilience, has to be manufactured with much greater modes of steel, maybe thicker blades in any of those steel, which increases the cost of any machine that works on rice straw. And it also, the silica component in it also changes the rate of combustion that happens with it. So when you're trying to make value-added products, you're trying to burn off certain materials. So manganese, silica, the group of elements in which carbon exists, those burn at a temperature which is much higher, and the yield is much lower. So, I mean, basically because of not having enough carbon inside it and having more other elements, rice straw is just a hard element to burn, it's a hard element to shred, it's a hard element to eat. So it makes itself pretty hard to get eaten up, which is why the long run solution is to grow millets. It is to grow other varieties of rice and wheat. What we are doing is the short stopgap, but there is only so much that you can fight nature.
While the minimum support price, or MSP, is partly to blame for the current problem, removing it suddenly is neither easy nor a good idea in the short term. Instead, a better approach would be to offer MSP for alternative crops, like millets. This could act as a signal to farmers, giving them the financial confidence to slowly move away from paddy and shift towards more sustainable crops.
A lot of this has to, the psyche of the farmer hasn't been fully understood. The farmer trusts the agriculture university, the farmer trusts the state to a great extent, and the farmer trusts whoever asked them for their vote in the panchayat or the local election. All those three people currently, in my opinion, are lying to the farmer.
Really?
In some way or the other, where they provide them a lot of freebies, but the delivery of the freebie doesn't happen at the right time. Where there's a plan for millets that's given, but a minimum support price is never given. The MSP today exists only for rice and wheat. The day there is a minimum support price for millets, farmers will happily grow millets. Even if it is much lower than the market price, the government also has to show intentionality that they actually are willing to buy. And certain states have done this. Like, for example, in Himachal Pradesh, there is, I think this year was the first produce where people bought varieties of fruit and vegetables which are organic certified. And organic certification meant a 50% higher price. So when there is movement on any of these fronts where the farmer can clearly see that there is a revenue, not even the viable revenue, I think a lot of the ecosystem will gradually shift, and I don't think Punjab and Haryana have any other option.
But do you think
honestly speaking, getting out of rice and wheat is the non-negotiable that they will have to embrace. It's better if they embrace it and they take it positively in a sort of optimistic manner. Otherwise, it's a choice that will be that nature will force onto them at some point.
But as a policy tool, is MSP the right one to use? Because I think they want to unwind the current one. To go and set a new one might just be, I don't know, setting the wrong example.
You don't need a new law. I'm just saying a number. I think 95% of the crops that are grown in this region or any region in India are grown because the government has at least an MSP, which it shows a directional strategy. It's not the way to solve the problem for sure. The long run problem is solved broadly when I guess the world's eating habits improve and also we are able to link to that world much better. But at least in the short run, the MSP is a way of signaling. So I would use it not as a policy tool, but as a signal to say that the government supports alternate crops as well as much. Similarly, so the amount of water that's given free for the rice crop as well as the energy, if the government promised any farmer to get the same amount of money that's given in resources, electricity and water, back to a given farmer, it would be a win-win. I think a lot of these varieties of millets are unviable simply because of the cost of water that is not being subsidized, which they are sort of making the earth better with. So I think small tools like that will definitely encourage a lot of us to make that switch.
What is it that Saroja is trying to do?
So as a mission, we are trying to solve for air pollution and create and scale as many air pollution abatement solutions possible. So we have a map of what the global picture looks like. In 10 years, we hope to have 15 solutions which are deployed in 100 cities, which are making life better for at least 5 million people. And we are sort of reduction in the number of deaths per year that happen because of ambient air pollution, which is currently at 1 million a year. That coming closest to zero is the only metric of our company. And we are going after stubble burning first because I think it's the easiest source of pollution to cure. One hopes to be able to make a significant dent in this so that one has the ability to do a lot more across all the other sectors as well.
Okay. Talk me through the various solutions that you've come up with to address stubble burning.
What we are doing as Saroja is to work on things that check a few different boxes. One, where women are a key part of the problem. Second, are decentralized in a way that can create livelihood in different locations as opposed to being a single company that captures all the value. Trying to find a way in which the problem and the solution can both be locally measured so that we can create a set of solutions which can be replicated. And the fourth is trying to check or sort of help different kinds of customer segments to make something with the run to end stubble burning in North India. One is work with district magistrates. There's a lot of young officers in this entire region who are looking for civil society or professional help, but they're not necessarily able to ask it. They can work on management of their machines themselves there. So there's a lot of balers and rakers which a given district magistrate deploys across the entire state or their district or sub-district. And something as simple as Ola or Swiggification of those machines done by a few people and a call center could easily manage these machines much better. A lot of the reasons why about 60% of the stubble burning complaints where someone needs a machine, the machine reaches. So given the current capacity itself of balers and rakers to make these bundles for businesses to buy, if people could help optimize that, that's 40% more of the problem. I think the second is working with young and funding sort of young and transformative academics. So in my journeys across all the CSIRs, all the IITs, IIScs, IIMs in India, in trying to look at this problem, I found that young academics below the age of 45 are virtually getting no funding, even though they have some of the smartest and the best ideas. So we are actually doing some research with a dear friend of mine at IIT Bombay. His name is Srinivasan Ramakrishnan. I encourage anyone who's watching to fund their lab. But Srinivasan used to work at Neuralink with Elon Musk, and he's also a PhD from Stanford in chemistry. And we are trying to see with some CSR funders money on the best material. Until now, our research says rice and wheat straw would be one of the best sources if we just looked at sodium. And there's an indexation on lithium these days with China having a lot of it, but we have a lot of sodium all around us. So if we look inward, there are several interesting answers to the Parali problem. So we are targeting the fuel sector, so combustion, gasification and propulsion, by being both an implementer and an R&D company on working on biofuels. As of now, we're focusing on 4 products or fuels from rice straw. One is biofuel pellets. So we have a 1 ton per hour line where we have a dryer, a shredder, a hammer mill, something that basically makes that rice straw into very small granules, and then a pellet machine to make biofuel pellets out of them. So we process about 10 tons per shift, 20 tons a day, rice straw into pellets, and we sell it to neighboring power plants.
The company is at pre-revenue stage. The first source of revenue will be the margin from selling the biofuels.
So we were in our pre-seed seed round, I guess, and I had a sort of large theory of change written up, and I was just looking for people who were, I guess, in principle aligned with that direction of thinking. So we started in October 23. In a year and a half, we were able to complete our sort of project site in different interesting ways. And we now have our pilot set of machines also on site. We raised with RainMatter in May 25, and we raised 1.2 crores at a 30 crore valuation, CCPS. Well, we didn't go for a debenture or a convertible note because we just wanted a value to be put on the ideas in the business and the cash flow projections.
And are you open to startup founders or local businessmen coming and copying your idea?
Yeah, they should.
What is needed to make that happen at scale?
In general, so at least in our theory of change, this ecosystem of public problem solving itself is very small. So I'm doing it because, and I think that's where RainMatter and I also align quite a bit, in that this is a public problem, and if certain decisions need to be made to help the public problem, we will do those over the private benefit part of things.
Stubble burning is a complex problem, and more than 30 countries around the world are struggling to solve it. Saroja is trying to tackle this challenge through a market-based solution by creating practical ways and products that use stubble, and by offering incentives to farmers so burning is no longer the easiest option. You and I can help in the short term by asking and supporting products made from stubble, and in the long run by consuming more millets or other sustainable crops. Thank you for joining me for the Climate Conversations. I'm Hansi.